In the vast and ancient forests of Tadoba-Andhari Tiger Reserve, every paw print tells a story. Some vanish without a trace, but a few leave marks that echo across generations. This is the story of one such tiger, Chota Matka, a name now spoken with awe, fear, and respect. Born in 2016 to legendary bloodlines, Chota Matka entered the world not as an ordinary cub, but as one seemingly destined for greatness. From the moment he took his first breath beneath the dense canopy of Tadoba, the forest seemed to recognize the arrival of a future king. His lineage alone commanded respect. His father, the formidable Matkasur, was the undisputed ruler of core Tadoba territory, a tiger whose sheer presence bent the will of rivals and maintained a brutal balance in the wild. His mother, Chota Tara, was no less remarkable, a seasoned and intelligent tigress whose strength was matched only by her instinct and grace, traits hard-earned through years of survival and motherhood in a land where only the fiercest endure. From the very beginning, Chota Matka carried the fire of royalty in his veins. It showed in the boldness of his steps, the sharpness in his gaze, and the quiet confidence with which he moved through the shadows. He was born into a legacy of dominance and wisdom, and the jungle watched, waiting to see how far this young prince would rise. Chota Matka was not alone when he first opened his eyes to the world. He was born alongside a sibling, a brother named Tarachand. In those early days, the two cubs were inseparable, moving like shadows beside their mother, learning the rhythms of the jungle together. They tumbled through the undergrowth in playful mock fights, mimicking the skills they would one day need to survive. But the forest, ancient and unforgiving, offers no guarantees. In its harsh lessons, it reminds even the youngest hearts that only the fittest endure. Tarachand disappeared before he had the chance to grow, a silent casualty of the wild, lost to the unseen dangers that lurk behind every tree and under every leaf. His absence was a turning point. In that void, Chota Matka was forced to grow up faster than nature intended. The playfulness faded, replaced by caution and calculation. He learned not just to walk through the forest, but to read it, every scent, every sound, every shadow. His survival was no stroke of luck. It was earned through relentless adaptation, sharpened stealth, and the fierce instinct inherited from generations before him. From a playful cub, he emerged as a silent hunter, a lone survivor shaped by loss, driven by instinct, and destined to carry forward a legacy written into claws and courage. As a subadult, he navigated the harsh jungle where predators, prey, and competitors constantly tested his limits. Every failed hunt taught him timing. Every confrontation taught him caution. Every victory, however small, pushed him closer to the apex. But his biggest lessons came not from prey, but from other tigers. In his younger days, Chota Matka faced his father in a territorial standoff. Though fatal blows were exchanged, the encounter reminded him that dominance is earned, not inherited. By mid-2021, another formidable test emerged from the shadows. Mowgli, a mature, muscular male who ruled the northeastern buffer zones with brute strength and unwavering authority, crossed paths with Chota Matka, who was still carving his place into the wild. Their first encounter was swift and brutal. Mowgli mauled him badly, tearing into the young tiger with the seasoned rage of a veteran. When the dust settled, Chota Matka was left disfigured, his ear torn, shoulder battered, pride wounded. That crushing defeat forced him into exile. Driven from prime territory, he retreated to the fringes of the forest, where survival was even more precarious. There, among the cattle corridors and human boundaries, he hunted cautiously, avoiding further confrontation while nursing his wounds and regaining strength. Over time, Chota Matka evolved from a wounded wanderer into a patient strategist. He navigated the buffer zones of Alizanza, Nimdela, and Navagaon with quiet intent, gradually asserting his presence without provoking unnecessary conflict. These movements were not random. They were calculated, almost surgical. It was a masterclass in restraint, a subtle campaign built on observation, timing, and a deep understanding of the jungle's ever-shifting power dynamics. But beneath that patience burned a purpose, unfinished reckoning with the tiger who had once left him battered and exiled. Months of solitary healing had not only mended Chota Matka's body, but refined his mind. When he returned, it was not with the reckless fury of youth, but with tactical precision. He became a ghost in the grass, his movements fluid, silent, and invisible to the untrained eye. Then came the moment he had waited for, near a thick patch of tall grasses, where shadows blur and sounds deceive. Chota Matka launched an ambush that would change everything. Mowgli, powerful but perhaps too secure in his dominance, never saw it coming. In seconds, the jungle erupted. Teeth flashed, claws tore through flesh, and the earth thudded with the weight of two titans clashing. But this time, Chota Matka was not the same tiger who had once limped away. He struck with ferocity sharpened by loss, with precision shaped by experience. He didn't just fight, he dismantled. Blow by blow, he turned the tide, pushing Mowgli into retreat and then into full submission. Blood stained the tall grass, but the message was unmistakable. The balance of power had shifted. When the dust settled, Mowgli vanished, not just defeated, but erased from the landscape he once ruled. His absence echoed louder than any growl. Chota Matka wasted no time. He moved swiftly, not just to survive, but to reign. He stepped into the power vacuum with calculated confidence, asserting his authority over territories once ruled by his rivals. Pandapauni, Alizanza, Kolara, regions steeped in the scent marks of past kings, now bore his. There was little resistance. The wild, ever attuned to strength, recognized the shift. The alarm calls quieted, and the hush of submission settled in the undergrowth. The balance had tipped once more. The jungle had a ruler, not just a survivor, but a conqueror. A tiger forged in the crucible of battle, scarred yet undeterred. This time, Chota Matka ruled not just by inheritance or instinct, but by sheer force of will. And he had earned every inch of his domain in the fire of a defining battle. But perhaps his most defining victory came in a clash that would etch his name deeper into the chronicles of Tadoba, a confrontation with the legendary Bajrang. Bajrang was no ordinary adversary, a patriarch of the forest, known for his dominance, intelligence, and extraordinary lineage. He had sired over 50 cubs, his genes scattered across generations of Tadoba's tigers. He ruled not through fear, but legacy, a tiger whose presence commanded respect. Yet age, even cloaked in wisdom, is no match for the unrelenting hunger of youth. When Chota Matka challenged Bajrang, it wasn't just a fight for land. It was a battle between eras, the old guard against the new, the legend versus the rising storm. Their encounter was nothing short of brutal. Flesh tore, roars thundered, and the jungle once again watched as fate unfolded without bias. When it ended, Bajrang lay still. A reign that had lasted for years came to a close, not with decline, but with a final ferocious stand. And Chota Matka? He emerged bloodied, but victorious. No longer a contender, no longer a prince on the rise. He had become the undisputed monarch of Tadoba, a ruler in his prime, commanding not just territory, but legacy. With the fall of giants behind him and the fire of purpose still burning in his stride, Chota Matka's roar now carries further, echoing through the valleys and forests, not as a challenger, but as a king who fought, endured, and conquered. But dominance is never without challenge. In the wild, power is never given. It is constantly tested. And in early 2025, Chota Matka faced one of the most perilous trials of his life, a brutal battle for mating rights with a rising male named Brahma. The forest trembled with the echoes of their roars. The clash was violent, primal, a savage confrontation between two apex predators at the peak of their strength. When the dust settled, Brahma lay lifeless, but Chota Matka did not emerge unscathed. Victory came at a grave cost. His body bore deep gashes. He was seen limping heavily, unable to hunt, his once muscular frame beginning to wither. Day by day he grew weaker, and then he vanished. For 3 long weeks, the jungle fell silent. No tracks, no roars, just whispers. Some feared the worst, that the great tiger had succumbed to his injuries, his story ending somewhere deep in the tangled undergrowth. Others believed, or perhaps hoped, that he was healing in solitude, away from the eyes of prey and predator alike. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Then a breakthrough. Forest officials located him. He was alive, but barely. His leg wounds were deep and festering, infection setting in. His strength had all but drained, but in his eyes there still burned a flicker of fight. Faced with a difficult choice, the Forest Department made an extraordinary decision to intervene, but without captivity. A team of veterinarians and forest guards tracked him quietly, respectfully. In a rare and delicate operation, they tranquilized Chota Matka in the wild, cleaned his wounds, administered antibiotics, and left him to recover in the very forest he had ruled for years. It was a moment of balance between conservation and compassion, between interference and reverence. The wild was not tamed, but it was given a chance to heal its legend. Weeks passed. Then, one morning, a ranger spotted him. Chota Matka was walking, slowly and with a limp, but with purpose. The fire had returned to his eyes. His ears were alert. His presence was unmistakable. He began reclaiming his territory, spraying trees, scratching bark, and roaring into the wind, a declaration to rivals and scavengers alike. The king had not fallen. His triumphant return was marked by an act as symbolic as it was staggering. He brought down a fully grown sambar deer, one of the most challenging and powerful prey animals in the Indian jungle. Not just a hunt, but a statement. Chota Matka's resurgence became a story not just of survival, but of resilience. A fierce reminder that true strength lies not only in muscle or might, but in the will to rise after being brought low. He did not return merely to exist. He came back to defend his legacy, to protect his cubs, to keep the forest in balance, just as he always had. And in doing so, he reminded the world why legends are never written in victories alone, but in comebacks that defy the odds. Chota Matka's comeback became a story of resilience, not just strength, but the will to reclaim what's his. He didn't just survive. He returned to protect his cubs and territories. Today, Chota Matka is not just a tiger. He's a symbol of persistence, of balance, of legacy. He may not be the fastest anymore. He may never heal fully. But his story has already shaped the ecosystem around him. His offspring are growing, exploring, learning, just as he once did. The cycle continues. Chota Matka has reportedly killed 3 to 4 rival male tigers to date, establishing himself as one of the most dominant and battle-hardened tigers in Tadoba. And as long as the forests of Tadoba echo with roars, Chota Matka's name will not be forgotten, because legends are not just remembered for how they ruled, but for how they endured.